Lovely to see you. How's everyone this week?
Kind of a drowned rat. I just got out of the shower.
That's
Just got a shower. That's always a good thing.
yeah, nice and fresh and ready to share.
How are you guys?
Yeah, good, thank you. All
Good.
good, yeah. Bit tired, but okay. Hi, Lil. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How is everyone?
Good, thank you. Lovely to have
Good.
you here. We might have a smaller group this week. A few people said that they can't come, so it may just be us, but we'll keep going with it anyway. And I know Anne Marie had some a nice quote to start with, so let's open it up.
I can't find the quote.
Okay, I might be able to find it.
Um, but but yeah, maybe look. I'll just talk about it anyway. Because it's not that important. I remember kind of the essence of it. So I had shared. I really like that in this chapter he talks about the little things in life. So I think one of the things that I know I do it, and it's again that living in the future, and I think well many of us do it, and it's always like when I get that job or when I do that thing, and like it's such ingrained mind pattern, and like I don't know, I enjoyed this week because it was kind of that little reminder that like I know this teaching so well. He has a very good video on this that I've seen. Like I watched it a few times a while back because I really liked that video. And he makes that point of like, even if you are going, even if you are gonna like win the Nobel Prize, you still have to like your life is made up of like walking onto the stage, those moments where you like walk onto the stage and then you stand on a stage and like again, it's just like it's just a word, right? Like it's just something that we've made up the Nobel Prize as well, right? Like it's like you have to like really enjoy like every kind of single moment in your life. And I think it's so powerful. And like if you can do that, like it makes all the difference. And yeah, I know when I speak with my friends, like it's always about like, oh, again, like when this thing happens and
Mm.
when such and such happens. And like I sometimes like I think because he says, and I think a lot of spiritual teachers point out that you can kind of observe it more easily in others.
Mm.
So sometimes I'm like, I know that this person has said this before. They said they'd be happy when this happened, and then they weren't happy. But like, of course, I also have the awareness that I do it myself. I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that one.
Well, I have the quote here, I think. There is a quote about it. Is true happiness is not caused by the thing or event, although this is how it first appears. The thing or event is so subtle, so unobtrusive that it takes up only a small part of your consciousness, and the rest is inner space, consciousness itself, unobstructed by form. Inner space, consciousness, and who you are in your essence are one and the same. In other words, the form of the little things leaves room for inner space. And it is from inner space, the unconditioned consciousness itself, that true happiness, the joy of being, emanates. To be aware of little quiet things, however, you need to be quiet inside. A high degree of alertness is required. Be still, look, listen, be present. And I just thought, yeah, that's so powerful because, like you were saying there, we are always like looking to the big things in life and celebrating the big things. I think like that's such a thing as well. It's like birthdays, Christmas, all of these sort of yearly celebrations that we have. Embed that in us from childhood of the thing
That's
of like, oh, we should be like looking for these big celebrations and we will be happy at these times, these distinct times. And the rest of the time, we just go about existing and waiting for the next holiday, the next thing to celebrate. So, yeah, whereas I think for myself, certainly the times I have felt the most happiest has been that like moment when you like listen to the breeze or look out at the sea or look at a flower
Mhm.
and you're just there and there is just this expanse, there's just this existence. and it's so peaceful, and so beautiful. And I almost lament coming back to life after when you're then going back into the sort of busy nature of I have to do this and I have to be there. And um when you have that moment, you do really realize that that is the true essence of happiness. So yeah, I think it's beautiful. Does anyone else want to share anything about that?
Well, I think that being in the moment, being present, well, like I told you, my word for the year is joy. So I try to find joy in every moment and everything. And we have a lovely little ritual that we started with our granddaughter who lives close to us here. So when she stays with us, she goes, family moment, and we all stop and watch the sunset or look at the bird or look at whatever. So we have these family moments, and we text each other different pictures too, and we when we have those. So it's making those a priority, I think, and shifting, like you said, mind shift into the present to try to stay there at all times, because again, past is what, victimhood, and future is anxiety.
Yeah, yeah,
And now is just a gift of the present. So
that's
trying
lovely.
to stay here.
It's lovely that you do those little rituals. I think that's so nice. I was actually just thinking about this because I love going and getting flowers for the house, and I was like, I must make this more, like, I just do it sort of sporadically. It's like I must make this more of a ritual in my life, because just sitting there with the flowers beside me when I'm working, it just provides that sort of space for that moment of peacefulness and happiness in your day to day. But I like the idea of kind of like, yeah, ritualizing it. That's really
Do
a
you all
good way.
start your days with a ritual when you wake up?
I don't.
Not at all?
I always
Brushing
drink a
teeth.
tea. That's yeah. Brushing teeth. I always drink a tea in the morning. I think that's probably the thing that I always do, and I've always done since I was a child. Um, but yeah, I'm not really a morning person, so it kind of takes me like about an hour to get my sort of self into the game. So I'm very slow in the morning.
Same here, but I've started a ritual. Um, I had numb legs and feet for 8.5 years.
Oh my
And
God.
well, that was at the beginning of the MS trip.
Mhm.
I woke up with numb from my waist down. And so I couldn't feel my legs and couldn't feel
Mhm.
anything with my toes. So I became this little test, is like, can I feel my toes? So I would click my big toe with the next toe and see if I could feel them or not, or if they'd even move. And so that became this little ritual that as soon as I am aware that I'm waking up, before I open my eyes, I wiggle my toes, because at 8 years, I realized that I was really angry with my body, that like it had betrayed me. So I started loving it and being mindful with that. And 6 months later, I could feel my feet. Who knows if it was related or not, but I take it that way.
Mm.
So every morning, I wiggle my toes and I can feel my feet, and I pray gratitude. Thank you, I can feel my feet today. And then I move up my feet. Can I move my feet, my ankles, my knees, my body, kind of
Yeah.
was I able to control my bodily functions overnight? Yes. Yeah, good day. And then I kind of all the way up, and can I move my hands? Can I move my arms? Because there have been times where I haven't been able to. And then I open my eyes and it's like, I can see today it's gonna be a beautiful day. And that's my ritual for the day. And then my husband already has tea on my nightstand. So
Ah,
I'm
lovely.
very blessed.
That's
So
fabulous.
that's the start of my day. And
Mm.
every day is exactly the same. I just start out in gratitude
That's lovely.
for just being.
That really is. I used to do a routine similar where I would start with my feet and, you know, do this kind of with my feet, and then do circles and leg lifts, and then the crossover lifting for the hips and so on. And I did that regularly for quite a few years, because it really helped to take out SI joint issue that I was suffering with. And so once I was better, I sort of don't do it as regularly now, but I do get up and I sit with my coffee and I'll look at my phone for a while, play a few games, and then just kind of, okay, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds lovely as well. I think It's interesting thinking about morning rituals because I think I'm much more, yeah, I have a lot of rituals when I'm going to bed. Like I always do meditate before I go to bed. I do like a little bit of yoga. But yeah, not in the mornings. I think it's something I need to work on. Have more rituals in the morning in gratitude. That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
I think it keeps me more present through the day.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if you guys are aware, there's another group about Eckhart Tolle on Facebook. I don't know how I found it, but somehow I just joined it, I guess. Maybe it was mistakenly for this one at the beginning, but they just did a weekly challenge
Oh,
of,
I think I see that.
did you see that
Sorry.
one?
I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
go on, continue.
Oh, and so this week is about remaining in love and
no.
noticing when you're there or not. And I had a really profound thing today because my husband went to do a deposit at the bank and he put it into the ATM, which puts a hold on it instead of putting it waiting and getting the teller. And so I was like, "Arr!" And then I'm like, wait, that's not love. And you're in love with him, so it's just a check, it's just a couple of days, it's not a big deal. You're
Yeah.
not in love right now, so you love is way more important. So I actually caught myself and checked myself as I was going, "Arr!"
Oh, that's great.
So, finding those, and that's that more awareness of really checking in with yourself and when you feel anything uncomfortable in your body. And that's part of yoga too, is that's what I
Mm.
use my yoga practice for, is to try to be on my mat no matter where I am,
Yeah.
and conscious of what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And when I feel something that doesn't feel good in my body, that's when I check in instantly, because
Mm.
that's okay. If I'm angry or upset or irritated, any kind of thing, that means I'm not in my alignment, right?
Mm.
And then you go back to these where you go, this too shall pass. That was my mother always said that, and I've always told my kids that, and I will hear them telling their children that now. So that was at the beginning of this chapter. This too shall pass.
Yeah, definitely. I really found that really interesting. He summarized it really well at the beginning. Let me just find so the story of the Zen master whose only response was always, "Is that so?" shows the good that comes through inner non-resistance to events. That is to say, being at one with what happens. The story of the man whose comment was invariably a laconic maybe illustrates the wisdom of non-judgment, and the story of the ring points to the fact of impermanence, which, when recognized, leads to non-attachment. Non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment are the three aspects of true freedom and enlightened living. I just was like, wow, that's just summarizes everything really, really nicely there.
I have it highlighted.
Yeah.
Have the last sentence highlighted. Yeah, resist nothing, right?
Yeah. But yeah, it is hard, but like sounds fantastic having that, I guess, one thing to the fore of mind that you're working on for a particular week, because sometimes it can be hard, I find, with a lot of concepts to be implementing them all at once. But if you're focusing on one thing like love or
Yeah.
joy or non-attachment or non-judgment or whichever it is, it's great because you can catch yourself then. I certainly have found, even since doing this book club, that I'm just noticing all of these different things in myself a lot more, and definitely noticing the awareness and the space more as well, which I think is really nice. That may be something that was there before, but I guess I wasn't thinking of it in the concepts in the way that we've been speaking about it, and it just made me appreciate it more as well.
Beautiful.
Were there any other quotes that anyone would like to share?
Oh, I loved the quote on 227 at the very bottom of the page. The arising of space consciousness, like you said, creating that space, is the next stage in the evolution of humanity. And won't that be wonderful?
Mm,
When there aren't just a handful of people on Zoom around the world, but it's everybody.
yeah.
I can just imagine a world like that would be, what a wonderful thing. I'm really hoping it happens in my lifetime. I don't know if that will happen, but my children's or my grandchildren's for sure. That would be, but that's going to take a lot of dismantling of our cultural systems, because our culture is so, economically based that it's, it's wrong.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think it's interesting, like noticing shifts as well. Like for instance, with what's been happening with Palestine, there's been a real shift this week. You can see this sort of, I guess things really reached a level where people were feeling very uncomfortable this week. So without going into to details, but yes, I've noticed there's a shift with that, and you just see suddenly like everyone's consciousness is changing around it. So I do believe it's possible for these big shifts to happen, but it is kind of, I think it's the point that you have to get to in society for it to happen. It's really like a desperate point almost, you know? It's like when there's nothing else, you can't continue down the road you're going. And maybe we will see that with things like global warming, and then these things that are gonna happen in the years to come. We might see that big shift because people will get to that stage where they're like, we can't continue like this, you know?
Well, people generally don't change unless they're very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, and that's the weather will change that for us. Economically, that will shift if if things shift enough. But as long as everybody has what they need, nobody wants to, move their cheese too much ever. So I think that's all part of it. But I think the more accountable we can be personally to ourselves about creating that space and that non-judgment, all of the non-attachment to all of it, and remember our oneness. Oh, I don't know if you guys watched the movie that Diana had posted.
I have watched half of it. I watched half of it today. It was really good. It's
really
exactly
good.
everything we've been talking about, really.
They actually mention Eckhart Tolle in the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So I need to go back and watch it again, but it was really beautiful and well done and just exactly the same thing. Yeah.
I have to continue with it as well. I was actually tired when I started watching it, and I got through, I guess, episode 1, and I started dozing off, and I haven't gone back to it.
It was very relaxing, actually. That's why I didn't finish it either, because I started to feel really like tired when I was watching it. So I think because it's very meditative, like in the sort of repetition and the imagery and everything on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I found myself drifting off as well. So I think that's just normal.
My husband fell sound asleep, missed like 3/4 of it. So.
Yeah. But it's so beautiful. And I find what I find really interesting about that, and some of the concepts in this chapter and the other ones as well, is the sort of interconnection of the science with the awareness and consciousness. Because yeah, it's just really fascinating to see how, especially with the vibrations and everything, how the universe is kind of repeating these patterns through the vibrations of sound. And I just find that really fascinating. It's something, and it really blows my mind. I'm like, how is this even possible? And like to think about our bodies as vibrating beings as well. Like how are we maintaining our form, and how, what's happening with the space? How can we not see the space? But we can feel it when we're doing what Eckhart's saying. We can feel it, but it's just not able to be consciously seen. And I just find that all really fascinating.
There's a parallel with the body, your body, do you know what the fascia is in your body?
No.
This goes back to, I was a massage therapist and, with yoga, doing anatomy and physiology. So the fascia in your body is the connective tissue, and it runs through your every single cell is wrapped in fascia. Okay, so every single cell. So if you took the meat, the cell out of the fascia in your entire body, you would have like a fishnet stocking that looked like your human form.
Oh, wow.
Right? So if you like pull on your ear here, like a stocking, it'll pull over here, or it'll pull at your hip, or it'll pull at that's why they say the toe bone's connected to the ear bone. Right?
Yeah.
So everything you do with your body affects the rest of your body. But I like that imagery too, and that was in that movie and also in the book here about that inner space and outer space, around us, the spaciousness. is actually alive and connected there. And so what we all do, so we're completely connected, not just over the internet now to Ireland from Minnesota, but with that outer space and being able to think that, you're doing this, and that's that, chaos effect where the butterfly flaps its wings in one place and then, there's a windstorm somewhere else.
Yeah.
Whatever. And just being able to think of it as like, because I know the fascia, I'm aware of that in my personal body, but to think of that in not just our world, but in the universe, as we're all connected and there's no differentiation that way.
Yeah, that's
It's
really
so
beautiful.
cool. Yeah.
I was actually over in London on the weekend to the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival they have there. And I took part in this energy healing workshop thing with this girl who had been in, I can't remember her name now, I must dig it out, but she'd been in 3 road traffic accidents years and years ago, and she'd been told she would never be able to walk again, etc. And she decided she wasn't gonna agree with that. She was gonna heal herself, and so she started working on the energy forces around her body and in her body. So we were doing this one of the techniques that she had been using, which was this idea of like taking kind of emotions and feelings from inside your body and putting them outside your body, which was really interesting because she was saying basically our body, if we hold the emotions in here, then it can really like stop us and sort of bung us up basically. But if you can bring it outside your body, then like you were saying, the interconnectedness of everyone and everything helps us hold it better. And it's like a fear as well. We keep our emotions and our fears and everything in here, but when we bring them outside, basically our nervous system relaxes. Because when it's in here, it's a fear, but when it's out here, we know, okay, the worst, has happened and we're okay. So I just found that really interesting. It just came into my mind there when you're talking about that interconnectedness. That yeah, there's the world and we're all connected to it, and we tend to think that we're, I guess, facing all our problems ourselves, but there's this whole world that we can draw on as well to help us. Just found that
Beautiful. I
interesting.
like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I use. So these are all, my kids call them mom's spiritual crap in quotes. This too shall pass, all those kind of things that have been passed down through generations from my mother to me. But one of the most profound for me is, if it's mentionable, it's manageable, which I
Oh,
love that one. And thinking of, keeping everything in here is so toxic. So getting that out. So if you can mention it, you can manage it.
yeah, it's beautiful.
I find by just saying it out loud, as you said, mention it, just saying it out loud, you have a different perspective of what's going on. I can say, oh no, that's so silly. Why am I thinking that? Or, oh, that's really a good idea. You go ahead and do it. But until I verbalize it, it just kind of sits there and stews.
Yeah, it seems so much bigger when it's inside
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and it comes out, like you said, sometimes you're just like, oh, that was kind of silly, or I
Yeah.
don't know why I was worrying about that. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Is there any other quotes anyone would like to share?
I thought maybe because you mentioned Diana, and I know she said she couldn't come this week, and then it was also something that I wanted to touch upon, but I won't read the whole quote because it's quite long, but it's page 230. And so it's that whole thing of like, so does TV watching create inner space? And it kind of says it doesn't, because your mind is linking with right? It links with the thought activity of the television show. And it says as it goes on, it says, like those drugs, it too has a strong addictive quality. You reach for the remote control to switch off and instead find yourself going through all the channels. And this book was written not when we had smartphones. So it's very interesting, because I remember even speaking with a friend some while ago, and he was saying like he was saying like he would rather be able to sit and have the attention span to watch a TV show than to like go on his smartphone. So like, you know, like these, and I remember another friend saying like she can't like watch a movie without like also going on her smartphone, right? So you're like reaching for it's like our attention is just it's even more addictive. I think like the phone is even more addictive, and we're all, well, many of us are addicted, and I probably don't go on my phone as much as like some people I know, but I still go on it a lot. I still, unless like I have to be very conscious to be like, okay, today I'm, or like for this amount of time I'm gonna like turn it off. But like often I'm just kind of like caught up in the day, and I'm like, oh, I have to check this and that. So yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, as he says here, but the TV thing, it induces a trance-like passive state of heightened susceptibility, not unlike hypnosis. And yeah, like how often are people just scrolling on their phones? And it's crazy, you know, when I started watching, I was saying last week that I got kind of on a bit of a binge. I was watching Sex and the City. I hadn't properly watched this series like when it came out. And like it's from the early 2000s, I think late 90s. And like it's so funny because their relation, like, because nobody has a phone, like, and it wasn't made that long ago, but I'm like it's such a different world. Like they go out to like meet people, no one's swiping, like it's only, and I mean I was, of course I was like I guess I was like in university when like Facebook started happening. I didn't get a smartphone until like I don't know, maybe like I was 23 or something. So like I have had the kind of space that like but yeah, I don't know, there's just so much to this. There's so much to the kind of phone addiction, and how again it's stuff. I feel for me, one thing is when I do manage to turn off my phone, I'm much more present. It really, yeah, it really prevents presence in many states. He does say that like it can be helpful, but if you choose the TV show, and again it's true, like we, you know, it help, like I listen to Eckhart on my phone or on my laptop and stuff, but at the same time it's very, I find it a challenge. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to say on that.
I had that very same thought, thinking about the television, that this was written at that time, pre-smartphones and smart TVs.
Yeah.
Because you can do anything now. And, you know, and okay, I have, you know, before you used to sit there with the remote forever. Well, now it's like endless, honestly, you know, even if you don't pay for those, you know, if you just have a TV that has its own stuff in it. So it's so easy to become completely unconscious, and to just let the time waste away. And I know that in some cases I really enjoy that, to, you know, do the binge watching, like especially if I've like been through treatment and I'm in bed, stuck in bed, then it's nice to disappear for a while with that, because just being in my own head can be really not fun sometimes, you know, especially when you're not feeling well. But does that help you? Truly, physically, does that help you to check out that much or not? I try, well, I've actually this week have been considering deleting the phones on my game, or the games on my phone, Liz, because I do the same thing. I play a spatial game and a letter game and a number game to just see what my cognitive status is for the day. Because I never know. And so if the numbers are really hard for me, then I won't do our book work that day. I'll wait for it. And it's like, oh, wait, I'm kind of on the ball today. Let's do this instead. So I kind of, you know, just check in. But that's because I have, you know, cognitive issues with the stuff that I'm going through. But that checking out, I noticed that with the children, with my, you know, my kids are adults. So I see them with they're just constantly on their phones. You know, there's not a second without them. And then to watch my grandchildren who don't have them, and how present they are when they play, and how they're dying for, you know, how they get louder for their parents' attention when their parents are on their phone. And I think that's why grandparents get along better with kids, because I don't use my phone when I'm around the kids. It's gone. You know, there's no TV, there's no anything. I'm just very present with them. So I think that's why kids and grandparents get along a little bit better.
I think like I also know there's one point that he makes, and well, I agree with you, Cher. Like when you're sick or something, sometimes, and like for me, like I often can't sleep. Like so, right? Like what am I gonna do? I don't know. Stare into space. I don't know. Meditate. I probably should, but sometimes, yeah, you're unwell and you just don't want to. But he does make that point about comedy, being like, because like comedy like laughs at the human ego, and I think like that's something that I've always loved. Like I've always loved like watching, I mean, like not sometimes stand up, sometimes comedy shows. I know me and Shannon love a TV show called The IT Crowd, but we don't need to go into that. So it's nice, and again, like comedy, again, like watching a comedy with your friends or something. So that's something that's nice. But yeah, I have one friend, a lovely person, but she says she falls asleep watching these true crime shows, and she loves it. She says it's great. It sends her to sleep, and it just baffles me. I cannot like when I cannot do that. So, but
Yeah.
comedies are good.
That's like my mom. My mom loves true crime, and it's actually really stressful. I think like that's the thing I noticed over Christmas this year, because we were having like a sort of weird Christmas, because it was the Christmas after my granddad passed away. So, you know, you have those sort of weird Christmases after someone, you've lost someone. So we were kind of like, oh, let's just watch, you know, all your true crime stuff. And like, we were watching like these episodes, they were about an hour long, about like these real things that happen to people. And I have to tell you, like, I just felt stressed like, after the period of Christmas. It was this unconscious stress I picked up from all of these shows. And I didn't like realize it at the time, but it's kind of like that thing of I guess people watching horror films and they're getting the adrenaline out of it, but and they like that, you know. But like with the true crime, you're just picking up so much stress from those situations. So I don't know how people find it relaxing anyway. Um, but yeah, I also the thing of like scrolling and just not being able to find something to watch. I think I have so many experiences of that, particularly with other people. So, you know, when you like sit down with someone else and you're like, what should we watch? And then like an hour later, you still haven't chosen something to watch. That is mad. It's like there's so much choice that it like freezes people. But then when I was reading this, I was like, maybe we also just really want to scroll and just like have that. There's something happening, but nothing happening. It's this weird I guess addiction to that scrolling that we
Or
probably all have.
to take yourself out of when you stay in your presence, your consciousness, the majority of the time, sometimes that can be exhausting too, I think. So
Yeah.
maybe that, you know, just like, you know, stepping out and going, whatever. Yeah, or here's the stupid game. I'm just, oh, here's an hour later. I love that my phone tells me how long I've spent playing those stupid games. There's a really fun thing. The laughter is extraordinary, liberating, as well as healing. There's a beautiful thing if you want to look on a YouTube. If you just look up Bodhisattva train, um, it's it's fabulous. It's one of the things I wrote I think I'm gonna actually start publishing it again. I used to do a blog post once a month and then do a weekly update for the same thing for this newspaper. One of the first online news things that way back when in the day, but I still have them all. I just have to find out if the links work. But I put this one under laughter. I did a month of things that are free to everybody, like just smiling and just focusing on smiling for a month or laughing for a month, or you know, and then
Oh,
doing
that's so
these little things. So I
lovely.
found all, I think I'm going to put that back on my website. I think I'll start that on my blog again, because it was so much fun, and now there's so much more out there. But this Bodhisattva train is just lovely. Just get past the first minute because it's very very real. It's like you'll relate if you've ever ridden a subway train or anything, you know. It starts on this metro train, and then and it's a gentleman that walks onto the train and how everything shifts, and it's just lovely. And I'll
Oh.
dare you not to laugh.
Sounds really nice. Like when you were saying about that there, what comes to my mind is that effect that we can have, like when you smile at someone or the way that you engage and interact with someone. And you just see like you genuinely made a difference to their day when they smile back at you, or like, and you go away just feeling really nice when you have a really nice interaction with someone. So I love that. I love that pure joy that you have when you impact someone's life in a positive way.
My daughter and I, because I didn't drive for 9 months when I couldn't feel my body. It was probably smart not to drive a car if you can't feel your feet, even though I tried. Husband yelled at me. So when I was finally able to start driving again, I noticed that people were so hostile in their vehicles. You know, they're just it, and I think it's because it's so anonymous, just like the internet can be so, you know, vile for people because, you know, there's not that face to face. Like I think it's a lot harder in a Zoom because you're seeing each other. But so I asked my daughter, I'm like, she was in high school at the time. I said, what do you think we could do? Because I don't want to be like that. If I was like that driving, I don't want to be hostile and driving. So now anytime somebody tries to cut me off or anything, I'm like I recognize you. and it keeps all the stress out of my body just by doing that. And you know, is that it keeps the stress out of my body, and just perchance I just like the thought that maybe it gives them pause for a second, like, is that my dental hygienist? Is that the at the grocery store? How do I know this is my kid's teacher? You know, is it somebody I know? You know, if they just if because if they knew you, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.